it up for the legendary Cody Cox.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another short week. This week, short week. Next week, short week. It's all good. Some announcements this morning. Seniors, please stay after chapel today. There is some information you need to know, so just stay. So everybody just take a deep breath. If you've been in my classes, you know I do the deep breathing a lot, just so that you just... We have an unbelievably wonderful experience this morning. But before we begin that, I would like to open us up in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for your presence. Thank you that you love us, you pursue us, you like us, you long for us. Thank you that even though we may be disinterested in you, you are always interested in us. Thank you for your power. Thank you for your spirit that gives us the ability to do what is right. Thank you for this Tuesday, this normal, ordinary Tuesday where we get to be here, we get to be with each other, we get to learn, and we get to do it in safety. We are so grateful. And I just wanted you to know that this morning, that we are so grateful. And even when it's hard to be, teach us how to be grateful. I give you this week. I give you our classes, our teachers, our friends, our families, and all the burdens that we're carrying. And we want to leave them with you for these moments. And I pray this in your name. I know you know me, some of you, you know I have a really hard time with favorites. I don't have a lot of favorites, but I do have a favorite person, and he's going to be speaking to you for chapel today. I have had the privilege of working with Mr. Credit, listening, trying to hike with him, doing a camping trip with him. I'm visiting him in Yellowstone, and every time I see this man's lovely face, my heart sings, because he is unbelievably wonderful and smart and curious and lovely. So, welcome, Mr. Credit. It's all yours.
Go to slide program, please. Start in the beginning. She didn't know that was going to be up there, but that's to prove she actually was there. Kind of a dynamic sort of thing. I just hear this voice across the parking lot, "Hey, Mr. Grit, where are you?" And I look over here, and she's running across the parking lot. And I love that lady. She has a vim and vigor for life. She's had her own difficulties in her life, which she would be sure she shared with you over previous years, and come back, that bouncing, all that vitality, and makes a huge difference here, and I'm just very proud to be able to work with her. So I've done chapel a number of times, but you know what, if I'm really honest about, this is probably going to be my last one. And I don't say that it's a sad, nostalgic sort of way at all. There's a time when you need to move to younger people, different people who maybe see the world a little differently. But I thought about this for a long time. What am I really interested in doing? And I'm doing this, the rhythm of life has interested me for a long time. I'm a biology guy, a science guy. And when I look around and I see patterns to things, that intrigues me. I watched the way you came in today, the pattern in which you came in. I go to these basketball games and I see certain people on the team that always do this. Others never do. Cole Benjamin did that every time. I watch when they take a foul shot, they bounce the ball the same number of times every single time. And you just watch their body language. It's exactly the same. We fall into these kind of rhythms of life, these patterns of life. And as a science teacher and representing the science department, we try to figure out what some of those are. We look at that periodical table, and we know that it's an amazing thing. It just predicts the order of how atoms respond and combine to each other. And we put this on the screen, and we see all those arrows sticking out, and we think about, now, God, how did you stick that all together like that? Mrs. Whitehead looks at it from a little different perspective. And see the rooms that she's got here, all those pictures in there in the room, and she's trying to give you a story about the rhythm of life that God made from a little different perspective. And what do you say about Mr. Hoffman? I mean, he walks to the beat of his own drum, and I love that kind of thing. In his classrooms, the signs on the door. I took this picture last summer when he went out with me in my boat in Yellowstone Lake. And he talks about his kids. He called me up a couple of days ago and sent me a picture of his two little kids peering over the side of the fish tank, looking at the fish in there, trying to start them at a very early age to sort of appreciate that rhythm of life. And the text that is on the underpinning of all of this is something like this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the water. What a magnificent statement to make. Or, I love astronomy. In my dream world right now, I transfer every one of you instantly to the shores of Yellowstone Lake on a clear night, about 10 o'clock at night, and we're on the beach, and it's dead quiet on the edge of the lake. And I say, look at the night sky. Like the Native Americans who lived there for thousands of years did that. That night sky was familiar to them as the walls of the room in your bedroom. That's all they saw at night. They weren't on their internet or smartphones. They were looking at the night sky. That ordered the season, the rhythms of their life. And that's Orion. That was already mentioned in Psalms. It's an old name, a very old name. It's not a new name at all. So when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him? That's speaking to us. Those pillars of creation, as that's what they're called, were filmed by the Hubble Space Telescope and later by the new one, the James Webb. And we look at that and just imagine if we could just this whole would disappear way out in the distance. We're on some sort of a spacecraft and we're just actually watching that and looking at that. What would that say about the rhythm of your life? So, in order for you to understand where I'm coming from, and this is going somewhere, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. If I were to die, and I will, in a place that I could probably pick my own place, it'd probably be here. What a peaceful surrounding. And it's been a part of my life for a long time. It started with my mother's interest in beauty and symmetry. She died at 103 years old. When I would go to her house, even when she was very, very old, she would always have something like this setting on the table. Hey, Mom, where'd you get those cones? Outside. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah, Mom, I guess they're beautiful. They're all so different. She would look at a flower or a leaf, and she'd want to pick up every maple leaf in the whole yard and put them in her house and make a decoration out of it. Every leaf was a marvel to her. I grew up with that kind of a feeling of sensitivity to a pattern, to a rhythm, to beauty. And of course, looking out of my window when I was just a little kid, I'm going to climb that someday. And we have, many, many times. I'm very proud in a not arrogant way. I was able to take my 3 kids up to the top of that one. That might look like a rusty pair, but there's some beauty, some symmetry to that. The moon marks off the seasons, and the sun knows when to go down in Psalm 104. I've told my family at my funeral someday, I would like that psalm to be read, parts of that psalm. That's the science psalm. Last week, when you look up at the night sky and saw that comet, if you did that through a telescope or some other way of doing that, the regularity of the rhythm of the universe, the sun coming and going and the moon coming and going, that touches me. So when I drive around, I look at patterns. Do you ever wonder why all those crows are looking the same way? They're just crows. Or around here, off the Hannigan Road. Notice that the trumpeter swans, they don't ever sit next to each other. Not real close. Now, the seagulls, if they're sleeping, will sit close to each other. If not, oh no, they want a lot of room in between. That's the 10-foot rule for a seagull. Now, those seagulls, there's some on the roof here right now. If you listen real close, you might hear them. Those seagulls are super-duper pooper-scoopers. Now, you'd be surprised by the time of the end of the school day how much they've deposited out there on that parking lot. They like my pickup. For some reason, they just, wherever I park it out there, they go for my truck. And I've forever taken some out. Now, you can just take a good look at that here. And this is by the light pole right over here. And of course, those are not, that's not Mr. Schultz, that's not one of his art classes. That's not one of his abstract art things. That's the bird sitting on the top of the big light pole. Now, if you were a physics person, I suppose you could look over there and say, can you figure out the trajectory at which the bird was flying when it did that? Now, some of the math people would probably be able to do that, but if you look at something like this one right here, was that bird flying south or north? Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time sitting there on looking at all, and I wonder where that bird was coming from. I'm more interested in getting it off because it lands on the track or not landing on your head. But they're very skillful at that. If you look at the snow geese, the pattern of the snow geese around here, they all sit right next to each other, totally unafraid of it, right next to each other. And then, if I'm really close up, and I did that at Skagit Valley last week, I'm just watching them out there very closely, and then all of a sudden, what triggered that? Can you turn the sound on? A little louder? Quite a bit louder? Louder yet? Just leave it at that level. How do they know when to go? This next group, watch close. Who goes first? Who's the leader? Who's the rhythm? Who's the leader? Watch them close. All of a sudden, one go, that's boom. That intrigues me. The pattern. So last week, I had to go to Boston for one day or close to it. And so went through SeaTac Airport. Sit there and you watch the normal kind of rhythm of what's going on in the airport. Over the loudspeaker, you could board this flight, Group CD, then C, preferential seating, all that whole kind of thing. You know the ritual of that. You see these people flying around. But this interests me. The rhythm of that board, who's planned that board, who's put that thing all together there, make sure that everything is in the right spot. When you get in your airline seat, I want to know about this. I'm curious about this headwind. Okay, so this plane's supposed to be going 434 miles per hour, but it's into a 100-mile-an-hour headwind. And look how cold it is. It's 72 degrees below zero. How high is that? Oh, we're up at 38,000 feet. So we're up 6 miles up in the air, and it's 72 degrees below zero. I think that's intriguing. Where did you go? But looking out of the window, some people pull that shade down and go to sleep. How can you go to sleep when all this stuff is below you, just passing past it? Look at the rhythms of that. You see these streams coming through here. And then over to Iowa, I'm intrigued. Why are all these, what's happening here? Well, apparently these streams are running, and there's the big river. But these little dots, What are those little dots? Well, a close-up, those little dots, oh, a long time ago in 1800 when they settled this, those little dots, you know, those are section lines. That's a mile by a mile by a mile by a mile. That's a half. There's a pattern to that. And then you look at the tiddlywinks. The tiddlywinks, of course, are just the pivots, the irrigation pivots from the sky. I'm intrigued with patterns. One more. Over the looking down the airplane, just as you landed in Seattle, which way is that water going? Is it going this way or is it going this way? Well, it's got to be going this way because it's cutting this way. That's going to get cut, and that's going to be the lake over there. To me, it's fun. Then when the lights go off, then the patterns really start to show. Who laid that out? What's the rhythm of that? And what's the person who decides, no, I'm just going to cut all the way across this way, cut across all the lines, the north-south line, and I'm going to change the pattern. The reason I went there was to visit this organization. I'm on the board of that. They make submersibles, and this is the owner of this, and the only person I know of when he was 22 years old paid $7,000, which he borrowed from his grandmother, to buy a yellow submarine and sail around New York Harbor in a yellow submarine. But the reason I wanted to illustrate this is one of our students. The rhythm of his life when he sat in the second row in the back seat in my earth science classroom, if you'd ever said to me, you ever think that kid's ever going to turn out to be a brilliant electrical engineer? I would say no. I have his record book. I have every record book I've every year. I don't look at the grades, I remember the kids. He ends up being the engineer, and so he showed me this is a son of one of the former biology teachers here, Colleen Unima. And this is what he's doing. That's what he's designing. That's in a big robot that's going to go down to the deep part of the Pacific Ocean in about a month. They're just putting that whole thing slides in there. It's a titanium sleeve. The rhythm of his life. You know, we can look at this world through a computer screen, but there's nothing like actually being there. So she's not sure that she's actually going to eat it, but anyway, I had the honor of pointing out to them where I decided I wanted to be a biology teacher when I was 12 years old, standing right here, right where I'm pointing. I was 12 years old with a good friend of mine, and there was a black bear that wandered down there. And I thought, oh, wow, I love this outdoor biology. And through God's plan, I've been able to do that. This is the man standing next to me. I called him last night in San Francisco where he's living today. This is Barry. I'm going to mention your name today. I'm going to show you a picture. And this was taken a year ago at Deception Pass. Fast forward 70 years or so. So when there's an opportunity to take these kids out and look at the rhythm of what God made in this world, that just resonates with me. To explore that. How big is it? How old is it? How far around is it? How high is it? How much wood is in there? How many houses do you build from that? You can just go on and on with the questions. But I'm a curious person. That's what I like to do. Doesn't that touch your soul? That cold, crisp day was 28 degrees, and Dr. Gary Bergman and myself were hiking up in the Mount Baker area, no one else around, and saw that picture. So we've tramped all over the mountains, Mr. DeHogue, Bergman, and myself. And look at these pictures. And when you see the colors, look at God's pattern. I just love that picture. Now, when you look at Mount Baker, most people say, guys, it's pretty high, it's pretty cold. That's where our water supply is coming from. But you got to count the layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That erupted at least 15 times. You can see the layers there. That's the rhythm of that mountain. So look at these kids. What's going to be the rhythm of their life, of your life? What's going to be the pattern of how they live? It's exciting. Look at that really close. Hair snow, very, very rare. Happen to see that. Photograph that. That's God's tapestry. That's his hands. That's his beauty. My favorite book of outdoor stuff is The Art of God. And it's a phenomenal book. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from, but where it goes. So as everyone is born of the Spirit, John 3, verse 8. That's kind of a biologist sound and weatherologist sound, and the design patterns in the book. So, what's my goal at my age? What do I try to do? I want to instill this as much as I can in the few days that I have left in my life to get other people to see and understand. I want them to be curious. It happens to be my granddaughter. And that's a magic moment, which I hope all of you at some point in time can have opportunity to have, to point out patterns. Hey, you see that down there? There was a glacier down there. Hey, what else is there? That's where a grizzly bear just dug. Hey guys, wonder where the bear is. You could just see the fresh tracks. Don't you want that beauty to touch your soul? Look at the pattern. Don't just drive past with your windows just focused on the road, but look alongside of you when you're walking on the trail. What do you see? Oh, that's 39 years old. You can count the layers. And this pattern, I just saw this last week. I wanted to see how long it would take me to eat one of each of those colors. I only got up to the blue and I decided that was enough for now. But it's an interesting kind of a pattern. And one of the kind of just weird off the wall was, as we're looking at those deep diamond submersibles, I turn around, this gigantic ship is only about a couple hundred feet away. And it says, these cars are coming off. What is the deal? Well, there's 1,000 cars on there. It took 35 people a whole day to unload 1,000 cars. But I'm curious, so 1,000 cars, these all happen to be, they're all Nissans and another whole boatload of Subarus. How many layers are there? How do you get from one to the other? It's like a corkscrew. I wanted to get on that boat, but I couldn't get past that guard. I wanted to find that out. Furthermore, I really wanted to know, if you pack them so close together, and you got them right next to each other because you want a whole lot of cars together, how do you get out of the car? Well, they're right next to each other. And then when they get them off the ship and they pack them in this big yard, there's a yard of 1,000 cars easily, they're 2 inches apart, literally, bumper to bumper. So when you load them up there, I went to one in the middle, you got to move 50 cars to get the middle one out of there? I got a lot of questions about that. So what's our rhythm? Maybe someday this will be yours. Driving up in the Grand Teton area, Yellowstone Park area, close to it, and all of a sudden this lady appeared out of nowhere, and she was looking around, obviously going to get married. So my sister was with me, and my wife says, you're obviously going to get married. Where's your best man? I don't have one. I'll be the best woman. You got a recorder? No, I'll sign the witness, okay? I said, you got a photographer? No, I'll be the photographer. I have no idea who these people are. But for 20 minutes we were there. We took their pictures, signed their stuff off. We're the best woman there, living happily ever after, but moving to a closer one. The rhythm of your life. Maybe this will be part of your life. Look at those smiles. Look at that kind of close. The new baby. But we all know God's rhythm. And then we move forward to the rhythm of his life. And Coaches for Cancer evening. And you look at the expression on the difference of the faces. Same girls, different picture. Mr. Pollinger, close friend of mine, serious cancer. But this is not intended to be somber. This is what God has done. So, in my own case, that's me. I didn't even know that picture existed till about 6 months ago. My sister showed it to me. That's in South Dakota. I think I'm 2 or something like that. So, and my family, I have 5 sisters. I'm the only boy of the group. But now, one is gone. That's in everybody's rhythm. And so now you count. There were 5, now there were 4. That will happen in every family. There's nothing wrong with that. That's God's plan. You have a certain period of time on this life that you're going on this earth that you can be here. But it will happen to all of us. That's the rhythm. This one here, this lady, well, I'll probably be going to her funeral sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks. She just called me, and she came to Yellowstone in August. A lot of you know her. And I said, "What are you doing here, Debbie? Where's your oxygen mask?" "Well, I don't need it." "What do you mean you don't need it? We're at 8,000 feet. There's not a lot of air here." "Well, I'll go get it, put it on pretty soon." And then 2 weeks ago, I went to a church in town here, and she became a member of that church. But it's very close. That's what she told me on the phone. It's very close. But that's the rhythm of her life. But what about yours? What about yours? So, what are the rhythm of the kids in school here? We change from one color to another color. That's the rhythm of what we do. We see patterns at the student lounge. We have the ESPN evening. What goes up, what comes down, that rhythm ought to be practiced many, many times so someone doesn't get hurt. Can you kick the sound up, please? You got to hear the sound of that pole bending and Johnny landing. The rhythm of his life. Lot louder, lot louder. You'll see why in a second. Now, I like this picture, but I like this better. The rhythm of that particular event is afterwards we're going to pray about the competition that we just had. Now, sometimes it doesn't go the way we want it to. The rhythm is not what we intended it necessarily to be. But we recover from that. Your rhythm. Watch what she does, the same thing every time. So many bounces. Exactly, exactly, exactly. And you all know what happened. And you know what happened. Isn't that neat? This is life. Where is he sitting? Where is he at? Right there. Hey, I've seen that 50 times. I just want to see, that's what it is, folks. That's life. That's life. That's a good one. I'll admit that I enjoyed this way too much for someone my age. I hardly slept that night. I was just thinking about this whole thing here. But here's how we end it. And I've learned in the rhythm of this sort of thing, the pattern of this, I got to take a picture of the score real quickly because there are certain gems, when they lose, it's off the scoreboard in about 5 seconds. And when we win, it's on for a long time. So I knew instantly I had to take a close-up picture of the score, and sure enough, it was off right after that. But that, I kind of look at that and I think, you know, I'm ashamed of myself for enjoying that so much, but I'll get over it. But anyway, so we take our final picture, and then it's quiet. The rhythm changes. I'm in the gym quite often late at night doing some things in there. And you turn those lights on, and there's nobody there. It's a very, very quiet place. So what's next? The Jolly Ranchers are gone. They've had their time over the radio. If I get that rhythm wrong, I missed one game this year that I didn't walk over and give one to him. They announced it on the radio. He called me that night and he said, "Did you forget something?" I said, "I'm sorry. I forgot to give you a job." Okay, that rhythm is extremely important to them. To put this, where is this all going? What rhythms can we have in the future at this school? Look what we've done. When there are some very difficult times, we've helped out. This is Mr. Quern's house after the flood. And a lot of you people came in to help with that. Got dirty doing a lot of different things. Your heart is in the right place. Look what you did to those elementary school kids. You've planted a lot of trees. Our student body, our school, has planted thousands of trees around the park, all around the county here. Some of them are very large at this point in time. Just recently, we're continuing this stewardship.
Get them out, there's a bunch of them in there.
And the rhythm of the life of those salmon, of course, we know a little bit about already. Here we go.
How do we lift it? You gotta take it to work so that the bottom is into the water.
Those kids that are working on the salmon project, environmental education class, and Mr. Hoffman's classes, might be prepared for something kind of difficult, because a year ago, of course, it looked like this. The very same place, and inside the hatchery, we're trying to keep that river otter from eating our fish. That's a whole different story. But then the floods came, and this is what it looked like, the rhythm of up and down. So what have we done? From a conservation standpoint, what's been the rhythm of our school life here? We picked up a lot of litter. I deliberately picked older pictures here. That's Nate Bossman. That guy is flying B-1 bombers right now. We did this for 30 years. And I always wondered, where does that stuff go? So last week, I'm driving in the parking lot over here, and I see this is taken right out here, I see this truck. So my curiosity would be, so where's that kind of stuff going to end up at? So I did a fair amount of research. Goes to Seattle, gets on a train, a long train, 150 cars, 2 of these stacked on top of each other, goes down to the southern part of the state, travels along the Columbia Gorge, picks up the stuff first in Sumas and Linden and Ferndale and every town on this side of the mountains. 2 trains a day, 300 of those things. They weigh 48 tons each. They're on their way to this big hole in the ground, artificial hole, in eastern Washington. And that's where it goes. That's where our trash goes. The stuff that's outside the door here, we're gonna move it. We never throw anything away, we just move it. Our whole life, we're moving stuff from point A to B, because where is away? There is no such thing as away. You're just move it. What do we move it? We recycle lots of stuff. That's a good thing. That's all steel. That's going to be part of another car. But a lot of it ends up in the ocean. And we saw all those pictures about beauty, and I wonder if any of our containers are here. Is that the chair that we threw away because we didn't like the color? Is there a hole in the bottom of that bucket? Was that ours? Who wants to go to a beach that looks like that? What choices do we have? What rhythm of our life can we do to change that? And here's the worst part. The worst part is that this is broken down into tiny little pieces. And those little pieces are swallowed by everything that's in the ocean. You can't find a fish. You can't find a crab that doesn't have some of that in their gut. You can't find a whale. The single-use plastics are the worst of all. So the European Parliament, this is just yesterday, is going to approve that plan for all the European nations. Many states already have this. Washington is going to be one of them. These are wonderful bottles. They're wonderful bottles. They work so well. The problem is only about 5% of them ever get recycled. It's hard to recycle plastic. So what can you do to the rhythm of your particular life? Well, that same class, Mr. Hoffman's class, is asking us to help with something. It's very simple. We've done this before. You drive around town, you see the containers all over. Put your paper in a blue bin. And if you don't, put plastic in something like that. It's not a good situation. This is where it ends up, sitting right outside the door there, paper only. And that class is going to take care of this, but they need your help. They need your cooperation. Our custodian is certainly going to appreciate this. You know, I went to the airport in Bellingham and I saw these choices. Is it going to be your choice to do that? Is that how you're going to honor our Lord? You go into any supermarket, you got a choice here, don't you? So I can say, well, here's a nice plastic one. I can say, here's a paper one. I can say, here's a styrofoam one, which is the worst of all because these little pieces just get broken out all over like that in the waves. We already showed you those. Or these clear plastic ones. In any event, except this one, they'll last for about 200 years or so. So I'm never going to see this. I'm not going to follow you around, nor should I. That's your business. But can we honor our Lord in what we buy? What choices we make? We've asked students never to bring foam to school. So again, that's the worst of all. Paper at least will break down. But the kids are asking for your help. Some are compostable. I'm never going to see the end of this as far as you're concerned, nor I'm interested. But at the end of your days and your scheme of life, what choices will you have made? You make them every single day. We make them all the time. So, on the airplane, plastic is wonderful for a lot of uses. But some uses it's not. We probably might maybe want to do some aluminum can recycling. They've asked about that. These cans here are, aluminum is worth a lot of money right now. It's so simple, as long as plastic never goes in there. I saw in the paper 2 days ago that this is a rise in North Whatcom County. It tells how much last year, the father of one of our students is Mr. Den Hartog, sitting in the audience here right now. I went to him to get the information directly from him. So who are your models of that godly living? Would it be this? Would it be this person who might die in the next week or so? Jimmy Carter spent his whole life, read what it says, my faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can. And he's 98 years old. We look at that globe, we look at those pillars. That's us. We're right there. You can see the light pattern. That's us. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. Praise the Lord. The ultimate question is, what's your pattern going to be? We're sitting there right now. The students from this school are going to go in every direction out of the world. What is your pattern going to be? You can leave your initials on the door of the fish hatchery. You can leave the initials. But can you leave your initials on God's world by what you choose? That's the question. Lots of ability, lots of brain power, lots of decisions. Have a wonderful time. We could just, the rhythms of this are, I applaud this. This is great. We can continue to do that. Explore, discover, honor the Creator by taking care of what He has made for us to enjoy. So, look at the enjoyment. Life is going to be tough. We might get bent, but we don't break. Because we remember, the earth is the Lord's, and we need to follow that command. Thanks for your courtesy, your respect, your silence, your listening, whatever. I just hope that when some of you come to visit me in the care center someday, I'll have a little laptop with me, and I'll have Aubrey's picture on there. I'll flip it over to the class, let's say, of 2023, and I'll smile, and I'll remember it. But I will ask you the question at that time. What are you doing? What did you do to make this world a better place? That's the ultimate question. I'm done. You're out of here.